What's up, MetaNerdz? This video is all about the biology, culture, and history of the Hutts at this point in the new canon. Originating from the planet Hutta in the Outer Rim territories, they evolved to survive in a hot, swampy environment. The world was so gross that its rain is described as greasy, with water drops being coated in an unknown oily substance. Hutta's most developed city was Barbosa, which was a dark, criminal-infested port town that mirrored the morality of many Hutts. This is also the site of the Grand Hutt Council, which was the ruling body of their galaxy-spanning criminal empire. By looking at the members of this council, we can see that the overall size of a Hutt remains relatively constant, but of course there are a few Hutts that reach an enormous size even for this species. They also come in a wide range of colors, with green being the most common, followed by black and brown, but many are spotted in blues, yellows, or purples. The most rare were the albino Hutts, which had a bright white color due to a genetic defect, and other Hutts would also modify their colors through the use of tattoos, like we see with Zero. Many Hutts also use some tattoos to rep their family, and by extension their particular criminal influence. Each of the Hutt clans was divided into families called Khajiitics, and by looking at Jabba's arm, you can see his Dacilligic Khajiitic sigil. A newborn Hutt was about half a meter long, eventually growing to be around 4 meters, and added hundreds of pounds over a lifespan that would stretch out across many centuries, if not millennia. Though they appear to be massive slugs, Hutts actually do have a spine that runs the length of their tail up to their skull, so a more accurate comparison would be to snakes. It is often unwise to generalize about an entire species of sentient creatures, but Hutts are remarkably uniform in their gluttonous lifestyles and love of violence. The only inklings of a religion come from a single Hutt that was said to have risen to the status of a god. His name was Bunta Hestilik Shadru, and that is all that is known of him in canon, but his legend's history has him receive this god status, not through some great wisdom, but because of his victory over his enemies. But to be fair, the Hutts did develop a unique architectural style, seen most notably in their impressive palaces. And though Huttese is a very well-developed language, perfectly capable of producing novels, plays, and poems, it is certainly not one of the galaxy's romance languages. Take this Huttese broadcast of one of the most romantic moments in galactic history.
Uma Jumuna, Uma Yachinichu.
Sadly for other species, their intense clan rivalries and ruthlessness pushed generation after generation of Hutts to dedicate their lives to conquering others. Many underestimated the strength and determination of a young adult Hutt who had not yet gained his own palace and servants. The slobbish reputation of those like Jabba made many believe that Hutts were impotent, drooling fools, but those arms were capable of holding weapons, and their mass could crush most other forms of life. This perfect storm of culture and biology pushed these young conquerors further and further out from Hutta, until they eventually carved out an area known as Hutt Space. Supporting the spice trade across the galaxy, these Hutt clans were able to grow their power over millennia, and enslaved whole populations of twi'leks and Nikto. During the Clone Wars, the Hutts remained independent for some time, before entering into an informal agreement with the Republic, which allowed them to pass through Hutt Space. Tensions always existed in this relationship though, as the cartels were perfectly fine with making profits by assisting the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Let alone the fact that almost every aspect of Hutt culture went against Jedi and Republic virtues. But the Empire decided to use the Hutts as allies, letting the repulsive aliens do the dirty work that was unfit for Imperials. Palpatine felt it was best to leave the Hutts in control of their crime-infested territories, instead of wasting resources trying to eliminate them, which would have most likely just ended up in spreading the filth across the galaxy. By using Hutt Space, Imperial agents could recruit the criminals they wanted to moonlight for them, while also hiring Hutt enforcers to run several black site prisons. The Hutt's influence was still able to oppress the governments of the Nikto, and keep alive a thriving twi'lek slave trade. It isn't until the Empire fell, and the galaxy was swept up in a wave of freedom movements, that the Hutt's control started to slip. The New Republic was being led by many people who had personally suffered at the hands of Hutts, so they did not set up any kind of agreements with the cartels. The NR essentially waged a war on the cartels, almost completely removing the Hutt's influence. But as is usually the case, this void was filled by other criminals who were eager to have the power they once saw wielded by the Hutts. Ironically, or perhaps not, it would be the Nikto who would become the new species intimately connected with crime cartels, with the most notable organization being Rin Riven Dies. This would mark an end of a criminal era that lasted thousands of years, but we can only wonder if the future will see a revenge of the Hutts. So that's it for their canon story, but you definitely want to hear these cool facts and behind the scenes stuff. The original concept art for Jabba was abandoned, but later picked up by the team of the Rebels TV show in order to create as Morrigan. Lucas said that Hutt was just going to be Jabba's title in the crime world, but it became synonymous with his species, so it just stuck. And very interestingly, Pablo Hidalgo revealed that in canon, the sexes of the Hutts have changed from being hermaphroditic in Legends, to now having two distinct sexes, male and female. And Jabba was actually an enormous puppet that was operated by a team of puppeteers that operated limbs and facial features. Lucas said that the inspiration for Leia strangling Jabba was based on a scene from The Godfather, where the obese Luca gets garroted. So that's it for the Hutt's biology, culture, and history as it is in the new Star Wars canon. If you want to connect with us, help support this channel, or get your own copies of the reference materials used to make this video, be sure to check out our links in the description. Special shout out to our supporters over on Patreon, but most important of all, remember, never underestimate a Hutt, and the Force will be with you. Always.